And that's what happens when you forget to plug your phone in. And, oh my God, it's the last podcast of the season and it's all gone terribly well. That's what happens when you start debating with Macca before the cast and you forget to do what you're supposed to do. Never mind, we're here. How are we going, guys? Pete, how you going?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate, and welcome everybody to the final edition, as you just heard, of the Tuesday Night Live Crowcast for 2016 season. So great to have you all with us, and great to have the regular panellists along with us tonight, Macca, Phoenix, and Nikki. How are we all tonight?
Very good and warmed up already.
Yes, for those just joining us, there was a significant discussion that happened pre-cast, and so hopefully we can just kick along and resume that discussion about Ben Jarman. Guys, did you just want to jump in there and take up the discussion where you left off?
Yeah, no. well both.
Hang on, before you do that, Macca, we better do this. Righto, fire away.
Hang on, if it's my news, I was going to talk about the other draft stuff, but I think, we all want to talk about what went on with Ben.
Okay. Macca, go for it.
Off you go, you two.
Well, basically, I've never seen so much suffering in big footy about nothing, in my opinion, because when the Crows first announced that they would nominate Ben Jarman for the father-son situation, that doesn't mean taking him at that stage. That means that they are nominating him for both the main draft and the rookie draft, and they still have to confirm that later that they are going to take him in that particular draft, whichever one is on at the time. And when it came to the main draft, they didn't confirm it, but their interest was still there in the sense that they were obviously had a strategy to get him in the rookie draft. And the statement that Justin Reid made at the time, on the 31st of October, was that there were no guarantees the club would take Jarman at the draft. We will be true to our talent order, blah, 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 blah. We'll see how the draft selections fall. And
are you quoting that verbatim, Macca?
Yeah, I am actually, yes.
Because I thought the quote was more about there are no guarantees for Ben and will remain true to our draft order. I didn't think the quote included there are no guarantees that we'll take Ben in the national draft.
No, I'm quoting it ad verbatim.
From where? Are you reading it out of the paper? Are you reading it from a quote? Because I can guarantee you the quote said there's no guarantees for Ben, not there's no guarantees that we'll take him in the national draft.
I got it from the AFL site.
Ah. Anyway, go on.
Okay. And then let me just.
That was on the 31st of October, wasn't it?
That was on 31st of October.
Yeah.
And Darren Jarman, he let me see. I'll just. Darren Jarman said we had a good meeting with the Crows, so we knew where we stood. There was no panic there. We were quite clear what was going to happen. I was just praying someone wasn't going to pick him up then, so it's ended up perfect.
Yeah, and the meeting that they had was the day before nominations for the national draft.
I mean, before the confirmation of the nomination.
Well, no, the nomination for the national draft. So there was two nominations. First nomination covered both drafts, and the second one that happened on, when was it, the 22nd, I think? That was specifically for the national draft.
Yeah, that was 2 days, I think, after the original nomination, wasn't it?
No. It was the original nomination was on the 31st of October. That's when Reedy made that quote. The national draft nomination happened a week before. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nikki, but I think it was a week before the draft took place. Correct?
The Friday.
Yeah, that does sound. Sorry, that does sound about right. Yep.
Yeah.
And we discussed it at the time, that the wording, what the club was saying and everything else that came out, we kind of went, well, we think he's probably not national draft material. And that's the impression we got from that. And that's just us listening to that.
I think. I mean, Nick, you've put on the chat Edward Sourgraves. I think that's incredibly unfair. I don't know whether you've listened to the audio of the Triple M broadcast that morning, but there was nothing Sourgraves. Well, then you can't make that comment because you're basing it on what people have written, and that he's been misquoted. It's been taken in ridiculous context. Go back and listen to the audio. There was nothing sour grapes about it. KG asked him a question. Tyson confirmed that, they were a bit confused. And then when Roo came on, he was more than forthcoming. I mean, there was no sour grapes about it whatsoever. And as far as I'm aware, and I'm as aware as I can be, the indication that he would be taken at the national draft, or the idea that he was going to be taken at the national draft happened at the beginning of the week that ended with the non-nomination. And my understanding is that a day or two before that non-nomination, they had a further meeting with the club in which they were told that he wasn't going to be taken in the national draft.
Well, coming back
so
to what
that ties in with your timeline perfectly, Macca. 31st of October, the Crows weren't sure. Around about, I don't know, what are the dates? The Monday of the week of the nomination, they were told that he would be taken, and then a couple of days later, just before the nomination deadline, they were told that they weren't going to take him in the national draft, and they would be guaranteeing him a rookie spot if he got through.
Well, accepting everything you've just said, I mean, people were talking about the fact that the Germans got shafted. Darren's attitude towards it is that he was quite happy that they were fully informed.
Look, I don't think that the Germans or Tyson Edwards has said we got shafted. I think there was a miscommunication, and at the end of the day, it's he said, she said, but there was obvious confusion, because I can guarantee you if Tyson Edwards came onto the radio and said, yeah, we're a bit confused, then he would be reflecting the attitude of the family. It's not as if they don't talk. So, and I've heard the same sentiment from people similarly close to the family. So it doesn't really matter at the end of the day what caused the confusion. The fact of the matter is that there should never have been any confusion, and it sounds as if Darren is satisfied that that confusion was...
Somebody die or what?
That was my 6-week-old
Is that
kitten.
that cat?
No, it was actually the 6-week-old kitten that's just gone through my filing cabinet. Where was I? Yeah, so Darren was obviously satisfied in the end with the communication that came from the Crows. We ended up taking him in the rookie draft. Ben would have been happy to be drafted anywhere because he's just happy to be on a list. And, whether he got taken in the national draft or whether he got rookied by the Crows, in the end of the day, he got rookied. He's happy to be on a list. And, really, the whole thing needs to be full stop. Next paragraph.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. I think we're about 99% in agreement. So, really, a big footy really got really carried away with this situation, in my opinion, and there's a certain element on big footy who always try to rubbish the club and try to make the club out as bad villains in this situation. Look, what the club and if there obviously was perhaps a bit of either miscommunication or misunderstanding, one of the two. But having said that, the purpose of the club, and I think Nicky quite clearly said, you would have had to be not really with it, not to pick up the fact that they were aiming for the rookie draft. And the AFL voted in that direction, but when all 18 clubs didn't take him in the main draft. Therefore, Adelaide's assessment of where he should have been taken was correct. and they were true to their word, and they took him in the rookie draft. So, I mean, it's, as I said, all's well that ends well. There may have been some either misunderstanding, miscommunication, or perhaps a lack of clarity in the communication. But there's some of the way that some of the things being said in Big Footy about being treacherous and all stupid comments like that, I just think really it got out of hand in terms of that, and it really irritated me looking at some of the posts in Big Footy.
Yeah,
All right, well...
And then you've got the radio who are just trying to create a drama, who went over the top with it.
I'm in agreement with Phoenix. I think draw a line under it. Next paragraph. What do we think of the national draft? That was seemed to be a good draft for the Crows. Jordan Gallucci, of course, was the first round pick, and from all accounts, seems like a very handy, pacey midfielder. And so, what do we all think of our first round pick?
I was very disappointed that Venables went just before our pick. I don't know whether he was on our radar, but I think West Coast have got a good one with Venables. But Gallucci looks a likely type. He looks a little bit light on for mine, but certainly decent quality. It looks like, we picked him where he was expected to go, so no real surprises there.
Yeah, look, I support Phoenix. I was a bit of a Venables man myself. But having said that, and watching Gallucci's highlights, if you remember when we were talking about it last week, and we were discussing whether it should be the best available, or and I was emphatic it had to be a midfielder. Well, fortunately, both seemed to merge, and the best available was a midfielder, and it really was a midfielder's draft. And I think Gallucci fits everything that we really needed in a midfielder, which is both outside and inside, but more outside than in. And the one thing that he has got, which we lost once Dangerfield went, was the ability to have that burst from the packs going forward. So, and that apparently is one of his strengths. And watching on...
and he lowers his eyes.
Yeah, watching his highlights, I was very happy with what we've drafted in that position, and it wouldn't be totally beyond the possibility he could play some games next year.
Yeah, they reckon.
Technically,
sorry, Nick. They reckon if he does play, they might give him a run off halfback to start off with. I
think it's fair to say that in drafts like the Jake Lever draft, I mean, he was a player that slipped to us for obviously other reasons, and I think that. The issue with the draft just gone is that there didn't seem to be any kind of name players that slid. They all seemed to go where they were roughly predicted to go, so there was no real surprise. Possibly Sam Powell-Pepper dropped a little bit further than we might have, although there was a number of people predicting him to go that far. So I think that it seemed to me that Gallucci was around about right.
Yep. The only query seems to be on his goal kicking. Nikki, please go ahead.
He wasn't our pick. He wasn't our first pick. We did the sneaky thing again like we did last year. We forced GWS, once again, to use picks.
Was that his strategy, Nikki, that was?
Oh, yeah, but it was a nice little strategy. We've done that 2 years in a row to GWS.
They deserve it.
So well done, Ogilvy, on that. I quite liked it when it happened. And as soon as it came in and they came up and it was a defender, I'm thinking, oh my God, the board would have gone nuts once they saw that.
Not wrong, Nikki, about that.
But I'm actually with PJ Crows. I'm a little more excited about Paholke.
Yeah.
Our second round pick.
Yeah, me too, very much so.
He looks a likely type, doesn't he?
He does.
Very much.
He's a very big-bodied guy for his age. And he's going to end up with a very, very strong physical build, but he's got pace on top of that, which is a rarity. And he's one of these guys that just bobs up all over the ground. And I can see him playing, perhaps not next year, but very close to it, because he looks to be like a genuine talent. I think Polk, as he's pronounced, I think he's a real get.
I reckon.
Was Ogilvy?
More of a chance
Ogilvy, when introducing him to the players,
yeah,
said he passed the good bloke test, but he also played very well in the finals.
Yeah, I reckon he's actually more of a chance to play next year than Galucci, to be honest. And it makes you wonder, it's an interesting study because there's been a lot of chatter and a lot of positive chatter about Paholke, and yet, the lad goes, third round. It makes you wonder how a player like that, who everyone actually really rates, goes at 44. Whereas other players where there might be a little bit of a question mark go a lot higher just for a particular reason. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, I have to support that. When I looked at where he was rated by some other experts, he was rated much higher. But there does seem to be this magical thing that no matter what, some players are going to go higher, even though there are players that seem to be better than them.
Yeah. Well, McGrath is an interesting first rounder because he's quite small. He's probably the shortest first rounder for a while, first draft pick for a while. I don't know. I reckon there's a few question marks about him.
Oh, I would have been McCluskey first every time.
I would have. McCluggage, you mean?
McCluskey, with that beautiful big body he's got.
Yeah.
Well,
Careful,
speaking of that, though, our third round pick...
The beautiful big body.
I didn't know.
I kind of let that one slip.
Not a sexual sense.
No, of course not, Macca.
Thanks for clearing that up, Macca.
Whatever, Macca. Yeah, well, we didn't know. But I thought this is a nice little link into our third round pick where you just mentioned McCluggage there. So Signorello, who is actually coached by an ex-Adelaide staff member who's now coaching at, I think he's Ivanhoe Grammar. So he actually played more school football than he played TAC Cup. When he did play TAC Cup, he had an injured shoulder and he had to go up against both McCluggage and Berry. And if you actually get a chance to watch the recruit video, the Ogilvy does the introductions in front of the rest of the playing group, he actually gets Matty to explain how many possessions he got that day playing on them. Well, yep. That was 30. Yeah, and how many goals did he kick? 2. And how many contested marks did he take? 2. And the rest of the playing group was just pissing themselves laughing. So I think that kind of signalled a little bit of intent, but obviously we've had our eye on him for a while.
Who's the ex-Crows player that's coaching?
No, it's not a player. It's a staffer. Ron, I'm trying to remember the surname. But I thought that was very interesting that we've... here we go. Cinderello is how to pronounce it. Thank you, Varney Magic.
Yeah, I did pick that up too. That we obviously had inside knowledge on it, but I find it hard to rate him in the sense that watching his highlights, he is absolutely handball happy, and in fact, he's for the whole season. His ratio of handballs to total possessions was about 72-point-something%. So I think he's got to learn to kick it a little bit more, but he can kick very neatly. But
well, that game he wasn't. He actually had a fairly even ratio, apparently.
Yeah, but he's got a lot of pace. He seems to do things very, very correctly, and I think he prides himself on being very clean at picking up the ball. But and certainly on what we saw in the highlights, that is the case. But how to rate him, I'm not really sure.
And we ended up getting a Himmelberg finally. It took us 2 years, but we got a Himmelberg.
We're going for younger brothers at the moment. We've got most of the Rorys, and now we're going for the younger brothers.
Yeah, it's interesting the point that you make about how these kids are rated, and it always seems to come back to what upside that they've got, and some of these kids that like you were comparing, for instance, Galucci and Polke, and you would think that Galucci was taken earlier because of greater upside, even though it may take him longer to actually break in the team than Polke does. So. And it must be an incredibly fine balance for the recruiters as to looking at a kid and saying, well, he's not actually at his peak yet. This kid is at his peak. This kid's never going to reach that level of peak. Do you know what I mean? And so you get kids. Like to me, I mean, I looked at the highlights of our last pick, Ben Davis, and he just looked smooth as you like. I don't know if you saw the highlights package of him. He just looked terrific. He drops down to what?
But he was injured.
So it's just
because I think he slid because of injuries.
Yeah. He missed about the last half of the season, didn't he?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, he was. I think Sydney were going to claim.
They were going to rookie him.
But so he was obviously rated to an extent, but it's just interesting. I don't know how they do it, but they, like you say, the number one pick this year, not a big kid, may not necessarily play footy in his first year, but they just seem to be able to pick the fact that the kids that go high just have, they can see an upside in them, that they've got a ceiling of improvement that will make them a better player.
Well, I think we spoke about this.
It's because they track them.
Yeah, we spoke about this last week too, and there's been a bit of chatter again on Big Footy regarding, the draft and talent spotting and all the rest of it. And I do think there's a bit of scouter's lust, if you like. They do follow players for a long period of time, and I reckon some lads, as they're coming through the ranks, their name is the one that keeps bobbing up. And I don't know. I mean, look at a bloke like Rory Sloane, and you have a look at his junior career and what he achieved in under 18s and all that. And you think, how did a bloke like that go so low? And I reckon Polkey's going to be similar. And yet, to be honest with you, Gallucci, the bloke he reminds me of is Simon Tregenza.
Except for the kick at the end.
Yeah, well, even he's got a bit of a loopy kick. He's got a quick turn of pace, relatively light. The first thing I thought of was Trigger, and I thought, oh, God, not that Trigger was a bad player, but you hope he's a little bit cleaner by foot than Simon was.
Yeah, but just coming back to what was being discussed before about the ability to see where the player's going to. I think that Ogilvy has got that vision where he can actually look at the player now and see what he's going to be in a couple of years' time. He certainly did that with Dangerfield, for example, and he's done it with other players which were taken where other people didn't want to take them. And I think this is why some clubs, e.g. Carlton, for example, in the past, shocking drafters, because they take what they're seeing at the moment rather than taking what it's going to be down the track. And, as Peter was saying, that players develop and they change, and it's the ability of the drafter to actually see where that player's going to end up at once he achieves his full ability. And this particular draft was an interesting one because I thought that it emulated 2001 with the first three draft picks when it was out of Hodge, Judd and Ball. And I think, you could argue forever who picked correctly. But I thought Hawthorn did very well with their selection of Hodge. And I think we might be talking about the top three guys in the same vein down the track.
I think where it comes down to, Mako, what we know of Ogilvy is that they track these players for at least 3 years prior to them being drafted. So for me, that's where you've got an idea of what the ceiling's going to be like, because you're watching these kids as they grow. You're seeing how they're adapting to their bodies changing, which when you draft them, they're going to go through still some more changes. And I think what he looks at a lot is their initiative, their professionalism, how much they kind of want it. And so if things don't quite go right in terms of skills or whatever, but if they still have that particular desire and want that comes through. And interesting, if you look at those three that we picked up first, they all won their best and fairest at their club.
Very good point, Nicky. I hadn't picked that up, actually. And I think your latter point about all those other factors apart from football ability, they obviously come into it because we saw with Scharenberg, who never got picked up in either the main draft or in the rookie draft. Was that a cry of anguish?
That was a cat.
I thought it was Scharenberg.
Might have quieter than that.
I thought it was Scharenberg screaming in agony. But
The bloody thing's still on heat.
oh God, the sexy cat. I'm struggling for a loop. That bloody cat. No, but people were putting Scharenberg.
I've just lost it.
They're putting Scharenberg in the top 30 or 40, and yet he doesn't end up getting taken. There's other factors there other than football ability. That's what you were saying, Nikki.
Yeah, I mean,
She
it's
can't
so
talk.
surprising that I've calmed myself down a little bit. But that's very interesting with Jonty Scharenberg, is that nobody was interested. So something's obviously gone on, that all the recruiters have just gone, nah.
It must have been terribly disappointing for the lad not even to get it picked up as a rookie. I actually expected us to rookie him. I was a bit surprised that we didn't, and the fact that neither us nor Port had a dip suggests that there's
The
rumours
Port went
of
with Eddie.
rumours of genetic knee problems, a bit like the Menzels. So you don't know, but God, hopefully he goes back to the SANFL and absolutely tears it up, and perhaps will get picked up on a rookie list next year.
There was a question mark on
If they have it.
because he had a rotten beep test of 12.3 in the lowest. He was in the bottom 10 for that, and I know that some thought that it showed a lack of desire to succeed. And therefore, they may have then projected that forward in the rest of his game as well, or there just may be something else that we don't know. But he really got dropped quicker than a hot potato, didn't he?
Yeah, it was quite astounding, and you feel for the lad. Got touted as a mid-draft pickup, and doesn't. And he had a few mates as well. There's a few other blokes that didn't get picked up as well that were expected to go.
Well, what
It
about
reminded me actually of James Battersby a few years ago, who was an All-Australian under 18, playing league football for Sturt, and was put up as a Monty to go in the top 30, and just dropped like a stone. And we ended up picking him up on the rookie list, which was a bit of a saving grace for him, although subsequently delisted, of course. But yeah, it was an interesting comparison.
Well, it proved all the other clubs were right, but us.
Who was
Now,
the
it's
other lad?
interesting that... Which one?
There was one other lad that didn't get picked up. It wasn't Stengel. What was the other guy's name?
Yeah, no, Stengel went early.
No, Stengel went in the rookie draft.
There was LeBoy, but he went to Carlton, but that was in the rookie.
Yeah, there was another bloke that was touted as a mid-draft pick and didn't even get picked up in the rookie. Who was it?
Started with a W, didn't it?
No, I can't remember, Macca. Anyway, might come to me in a minute.
Well, I suppose we better move back to Adelaide ones, but Phoenix, what about your opinion about the big fella we took in the 4th round?
Himmelberg.
Yep.
Look, he looks... I like the attitude. Both him and his brother seem to have solid attacks on the ball, and someone on the chat earlier said that he reminded him of someone. Let me
Lade.
go back. Brendan Lade, yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, he does.
I always liked Lade as a player, and he is quite a similar player. He's obviously raw, but if you're looking for a long-term Daniel Talia replacement, maybe if he gets to those levels, he's certainly got. I think he's got the raw talent to slot in.
Yeah, I do think he's got talent, but as you said, he's very raw at this stage, and he'll take a little bit of time to come on, maybe a couple of years, because it needs a lot of polishing at this stage.
Yeah, big fellas do though, Mac. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, Vardy Magic in the chat. Dude looks like a lady.
Oh my God.
It's like bad dad jokes. No. Interestingly, Ogilvy in the recruit video about him talked about what he liked best about him says that when he's on an opponent, and if the opponent's like pushing him, grabbing his jumper, he just turns around and belts them.
Yeah, that's what I've seen. It's the intent that I like. It's the little bit of mongrel and the
not taking a step back.
Exactly. No shrinking violet, and that's important for a big fella. There's a lot of soft big fellas floating around. No names mentioned.
Justin Jenkins?
No, who? Is that Josh's brother?
No, that's what Himmelberg in the interview where he talked about learning off of Justin Jenkins.
Oh,
who? Yeah, poor bugger.
He probably
got the J bit right.
He probably got steered there by Felix to stay away from Josh and see Justin.
Guys, it might just be worth having a quick look at our rookie draft that wasn't, it seemed to be. Obviously, we picked up Ben Jarman as the father-son, but in our first-round rookie draft pick, we, of course, picked up Sam Shaw, and we know from the club release that was as a result of his premature retirement with concussion and the potential for some assistance to come his way from the CBA, provided he is on an AFL list. And so, nice little bit of work there from the Crows, just to, I guess, that they get a little bit of, retention kudos there, where somebody might be looking at, what sort of club we are. We've certainly done the right thing by Sam there to give him the opportunity to look after himself post-football, and we obviously wish him all the best. So that was the first round pick. Second round pick was a pass, and so that so we didn't participate we effectively didn't participate in the rookie draft at all, apart from Ben Jarman. So just wondering what your thoughts were, everybody, on that, and perhaps one of you three could clarify for the listeners if you have any idea as to why we're going in with the absence of that pick.
Well, we'll go, Nikki.
I would actually say that 6 BTS on the Big Footy board actually explained it really well this afternoon. So basically, you're only with your Category A rookies and your list number, so your main list, you've got a set number of 44. So we're going in with 43, including those. Your Category Bs are separate. They are not included in those numbers, but your Category A rookies are. So if we'd picked up one, we would be at the 44. We'd be at the maximum.
So why wouldn't we?
What it's doing is it allows us to upgrade one of the Category Bs, regardless of a long-term injury, which we've talked about, and we think there's possibly what they're looking for. The other thing I actually think where it comes into play is, as Justin Reed's talked about, is they're pretty sure that the rookie list is going to disappear. So we've got a number of players who are coming into contract negotiations next year, one of them being Jake Lever. You're going to want to have room in your salary cap, aren't you? For Lever, there's a Crouch. There's a couple of others as well. So I think it's a combination of, we've got a fair idea of where the AFL's going, and that they're going to get rid of the rookie list and it's going to become one just big main list. It gives us the opportunity to upgrade Keith or Greenwood or Beach. So we've got 3 options there that we don't have to have a long-term injury in order to do so. And then you've got that contract situation. You're looking at the overall list management of what's going on. So I think it's not just one thing. Now, they're never going to come out and talk about the contract negotiators being part of it. And we know there's some good players up for free agency next year, including quite possibly one Nathan Fyfe. You're going to want money in your cap.
Certainly, everybody's going to have a crack at that one.
Yeah, that's going to be, I reckon, just diverting a little bit, I reckon it's almost 50-50 that Fyfe isn't at Fremantle next year.
No, he's not going to come to us.
And his favourite player is Rory Sloane.
Can I just go back that, Nikki? You mentioned, if I got this correct, that we need an extra spot on our list because the Category B rookies effectively at the moment aren't counted, and so if we want to promote a Category B rookie, we have to have that spare space there.
Yes.
But then you mentioned about the fact that they could use this to upgrade John O'Beach. Doesn't that counter what you said, or have I misunderstood that? Because he's a Category A rookie, and so if they're promoting him,
he could still go up. But it means we can still promote Greenwood.
If it was him they were considering, surely they would have used that rookie pick. So it just seems to me that from what you're saying is, and I'm just trying to clarify my own mind, but it seems to me from what you're saying that it looks as though they're keen to perhaps promote either Greenwood or Keith, and I'd say Greenwood would be the tip.
Absolutely.
Particularly after what's happened this week, where we've got one of the newbies, one of our new draftees, has gone to stay with him.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think you're right there, Pete. That's in my opinion. You asked what we thought of the rookie draft, and it did turn out to be a bit of a non-event. But firstly, I was very proud of the club for what it did for Sam Shaw, and on 5AA today, Roe was sprouting about the fact that sportsmanship in sport is dead. Well, I thought that was very sporting of the club to do what they did. They didn't have to do what they did, but I thought it showed that at least we were a club with a little bit of a heart, in the sense of looking after a guy that's down and out after trying to do his best for us. So I was very proud.
Without being cynical, I reckon that would have been sorted out when he announced his retirement. Otherwise, I think you would have found that he wouldn't have retired and he would have stayed on the list.
Well,
put it this way, the AFL are going to get a Cockwomble nomination because of this, because the CBA hasn't been sorted out. If the CBA had been sorted out, like it should have been a long time ago, them and the AFL Players Association, then this wouldn't have been an issue.
Because it would have been, because he still would have been out of contract. He would have been off a list.
He retired. But if it had been, he retired after the deadline date, and I'm pretty sure there would have been some ways that CBA would have been involved as part of it. Yeah. We do still have a lot of contact with Sam Siggins, by the way, as well. Our club is well renowned within the AFL industry for our player welfare, and I remember earlier in the year I was actually I was listening to, it was Dunstall, Brayshaw, and I'm trying to think who else it was on Triple M, talking before one of the Friday night games. And they were discussing about if you were a parent and you had a kid who was going interstate, you want them to go to Adelaide because of the welfare and how welcoming they are and how much they look after interstate families, that they are the best in the business, was Brayshaw's exact words about it.
That's good. And Peter, I think the other thing that Nicky described accurately is that hole in the second one where we never took anybody is absolutely left for the possibility of upgrading one of Greenwood or what's his name? Keith, is it?
Keith.
Keith.
Oh, yep. Yeah. And in other words, the way they've structured it, anything is possible. So we can cover anything in the case of injury, and or just wanting to promote them. So, and then of course Ben Jarman in the third spot. And the other thing I was going to say is that I'm glad that they did not take Ben Jarman in the main draft if they don't regard him really as being good enough to be in the main draft. Because I think we once gave, that wasn't Ogilvy, but that was his predecessor, who gave a bloke called Nick Joyce, and we wasted draft pick 46 on a guy that was actually working in the admin section of the club.
He was actually the mascot, wasn't he, for a while?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he was the mascot for a while, and picks are too valuable just to waste like that. So I think the club did the right thing, because even by his dad's admission, his dad says he needs 2 years of development, but no better placed on the rookie list. And I think the club's done it pretty well. There obviously was nobody that was really bursting at the seams needed to be taken by the second round of the draft, and that's probably true. But it also, I think it is there for what Nicky said. So overall, I suppose, from my point of view, I gave the club a good pass for the draft, and it wasn't much to say about the rookie draft because there wasn't much happen.
Yeah, I don't think we could have done.
I think
much
overall,
better. I think.
What do you guys reckon of pass mark?
Well, the only one that I was surprised is that we went for Gallucci instead of Berry. I understand why, but Berry just seemed a bit of a standout, and I was actually a little disappointed we didn't take him instead. I was happy that we didn't take Hayward, which is what everyone seemed to be suggesting we were going to do. I thought Polkey at the third round was a really good choice, and I have to point out, Pete, that shout out to Corey. He got the first two right pretty much. He had Gallucci in the first.
He did.
He did well. Yep.
He did Polkey front and centre as our second pick, so that's good.
Who had that?
Corey on Crows Fan Central in our pre-draft predictions.
Well done, Corey. Yeah.
He did that very well. So, and the rest are a bit speculative. I really like the look, as you said, Pete, of Ben Davis down there in our last pick. I'm glad we picked him up.
And it shafted Sydney.
Well, yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, if we rated him, we take him. Obviously, we rated him slightly higher than Sydney.
He's a smooth mover, isn't he? He's got a nice little bit of toe. He's a beautiful kick.
Just looks like he's got something, doesn't he?
Our fifth draft pick was Pikey's call.
Was it?
Yep. Pikey had told Ogilvy, if there was somebody on our list, go for the fifth.
Oh, yeah, in that sense it was, but not that he chose him.
No, not that he chose him. He leaves that up to Ogilvy and the recruiters and the list manager to basically do the overall. But he was happy to go for somebody on the main list rather than a rookie if there was somebody.
Well, history will undoubtedly prove in 2, 3, 4 years' time there's somebody that's an absolute bargain in the draft. And some clubs have taken players up high that will turn out not to be as good as their reputation preceded them. But that's just a normal for every draft. So, but all we can do is make a judgment on what we've done so far, on what we know. And I think I'd give the club a very good solid pass on the draft.
What do you reckon, Pete?
What do you reckon, Pete?
Are you on delay again, Nicky, tonight?
No, I agree. It looked to me they had a pretty good draft. As I said, I think that we were a bit spoilt a couple of years ago that Jake Lever slipped through on the basis of his knee injury, and I just think that there was. I almost sensed that there was an expectation that someone might slip through. I mean, there was a bit of discussion pre-draft that Will Brodie might slip through, and I just got that feeling that there was that sense that people were just hoping that for some sort of miracle that one of them would be hiding in a corner somewhere, and that the recruiters wouldn't see him and it would slip through to us. But the reality is that the top dozen guys or kids that they went as they were supposed to do, and so I think that given the fact that there were no surprise sliders. Probably it was down to to Gallucci and Berry, as you say, Fiend. So and I imagine that they were looking for a little bit of that burst that Gallucci offers, and so I think that was pretty good. But no, I just think the overall they did very well. It was a strong draft. It was a deep draft, and it looked like there were a lot of good kids still available. In the third, fourth, and even fifth round. So I think overall they addressed needs. They got a tall. They got a bullocking inside midfielder. They got a classier outside midfielder, and they got a project player. And so I think that overall they cover themselves pretty well.
Yep. And my last comment on is that we were going pretty exotically in the names there for a while with Gallucci, Polke, Hibelberg, Signorello, and then we ended up with a Davis. It was a bit flat at the end.
He is Torres Strait Islander, though.
He is, and he's a beautiful. Coming again, he's just a beautiful mover. I love the way he runs.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he kicks on. Just note as well that GWS did a similar thing to us with Joel Patfull, picking him up in the rookie draft for similar reasons. So a couple of clubs doing the right thing there, but you would have thought that that would have been within heavy negotiations with the AFL to make sure that they got looked after, those lads.
No, just on that particular point, though, Nikki is 100% right what she said earlier. I think it's an absolute disgrace that they haven't put a lot more pressure and made sure this enterprise bargaining agreement was finalised before even the draft was done, or even before the trading period was done. It was bloody hopeless, in my opinion.
I don't think the AFL have performed pretty well at all in the off-season. We've spoken about it long enough. Things are going to have to change soon, I reckon.
Yeah, and he's got to lift his game if he's going to stay there, because I don't think he's had a great year.
Nope, I agree with that.
So who else did we think out of the other teams on the draft did quite well? Everybody was kind of talking Brisbane, but they had a lot of early picks.
I've got to say,
they got good talent.
It's very easy to say that some of the clubs did very well in the draft when, as you said, when they've got a hat full of early picks. You'd hope that they'd do very well. I thought, in fairness to Port Adelaide, I thought they didn't do too bad. I thought if they had a need, it was definitely needed a tall forward, and they definitely needed some midfielders, and I think they've got themselves 3 midfielders and a tall forward. So, and all of reasonable calibre, I thought. So,
I agree with that, Macca, and I think that they deserve a little bit of credit for the fact that they went into trade week, they had a plan, they shuffled their picks around, they ended up with what was it, 4 or 5 picks between 1 and 30.
4, yeah, 4.
4. So they ended up with some pretty decent. I mean, they got the best key position forward in the draft, apparently. They got Pau Pepper, who was touted as being, potentially being a top 10 to 15 sort of range midfielder, and had a lot of plaudits about his junior football. So overall, who else did they get? Atlee, I think was the other one, brother of the guy from North Melbourne.
Yeah, Joe Atlee. They got.
I can't think of the.
William Drew.
So I think
the one from Ballarat.
I think that they actually. I agree with you, Mac. I think that they did pretty well, and they got a bit of a lambasting when they did those pick swaps during the trade week. But I think that as everyone became more aware of the strength of the draft, that decision looked better and better as the weeks went on.
Yeah, I gave them a very, very solid pass for what they did.
I think one team that stuck out to me that probably failed both in the trade period and subsequent draft is North Melbourne. Considering they're on a regeneration, they're going to drop like stones next year. They picked up Jai Simpkin with their first rounder, which was he's a good lad, but didn't come in again until 34, and I don't know. I just don't think they've replaced what they've given up, and I think it's going to take that club 2 or 3 years before they regenerate.
I reckon I have to agree 100%. They look like they're a club based on self-destruction at the moment. I would never got rid of Harvey for a start, given the fact...
Sorry, Mac, they should have traded like lunatics to get themselves up the draft.
Absolutely. And... I just think that they'll just fizzle out and then they'll drop out the 8 this coming year, and there are a lot of clubs that are going to be knocking on the door to rise up into the 8 this year, and I think they'll definitely drop out.
Well, let's just say what happened about their pick in the 30s, they're getting a Cock-Comling nomination.
Well, speaking of such, that's probably a fairly good intro to the award this week for the Cock-Comling Numbnut of the Week.
Well, we'll start off straight away with the AFL, just the stupidity regarding the CBA, that they still haven't sorted that out and caused the issues regarding Patfull and Shaw having to be put back onto lists is the only way around it. That's more an anger one. So a bit of amusement, the North Melbourne. So they get to that pick and they pick a player who's academy listed. That gets matched. So what do? They pick another player that's academy listed, and that gets matched. You would think by now they might have figured out it's happened twice. Are we going to go for a third one? Yep, let's go for a third academy listed player. That one gets matched. Do we want to do it for a fourth time? I mean, seriously, how did they not figure it out? That they kept doing it. And it's ridiculous, as I talked about earlier, that Ogilvy pushing GWS was strategic, because it made GWS actually lose picks where we kind of wanted them to lose picks. Whereas this, they're just, those other teams, they're losing a pick. Or what is it? The first one they went after was because it was the team that followed them directly who then matched the bid. It was just the height of stupidity. I couldn't believe it when it was happening. But I think it has to go to Port Adelaide, because even though they did well in the draft, their new draftees arrived at the club this afternoon to be greeted by the volunteer ball steward. Because their coach and senior players are not in the country. They're in China.
I should have jumped in, because that's exactly what I was going to say, Nikki.
Wow.
It looked absolutely bloody woeful. You've got the others on a junket up in China, for God's sake. I mean, and they've got 200 school kids there out of 39 billion or whatever there is up there. What a junket. They've taken up about half the bloody club up there. And then you've got these new guys arrive, and as you said, I don't know who the guy was. What did you say? He was a ball steward or whatever he was?
Yeah, no. The volunteer ball steward. The Port Adelaide Football Club stressed that in their tweet with the accompanying vision.
Well, welcome to Adelaide, guys. Yeah, I thought that was absolutely bloody terrible. You know, as you said, I drafted well, but because of the bloody junket was on, and everybody of importance was away, and these guys just treated like also-rans. I thought that was very ordinary.
You've got the draft. You know they're coming.
I have to say that given this is the last episode of 2016, I'm feeling very, very comfortable with giving this award to Port Adelaide for the.
I was going to nominate the Australian selectors for not picking Chad Sayers, but Port kills that.
Yeah, I'm very comfortable. I'm very comfortable with that.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to nominate him.
I think North kind of had it. I was looking at them just going, you guys were just stupid. It was just utter stupidity over and over again. And then this happened today from Port, and it was just like, you've got to be kidding me. A social media fail once again. Just like the last time where they had the guy where he's had the signed hubcap. It's just, you don't think marketing people, do you?
Sorry, Fina, were you going to say something?
No.
Just sorry, your little light just came up.
Little snipe.
Just lighting up my life. Look, I just wanted to. I think we'll probably close it out, but I just wanted to thank all of you guys for being with us throughout the course of the year, season 2016. We've had a terrific time on the podcast this year, and the fact that you make yourselves available every week, and we get good continuity, and you volunteer your time to do it. So certainly thank you all for your participation. In particular, just want to thank you, Fane, for all of the technical work that you do, and quite clearly we could not run the Crowcast without your input and the time that you put into all of the technical background and getting this thing up and running. So a very, very sincere thank you to you, and a very sincere thank you to Macca and Nikki for the time you take to give us your thoughts and put in for the Crowcast this year. Also, while I'm thanking, just want to thank to the people that actually listen to this junk for an hour every week. It's been fantastic, the support we've been given this year. We've had a significant increase in our numbers of listeners, and so we really appreciate the time that you take to listen to us. So that's just my little wrap up from the for the year. Anybody else want to chuck anything in there?
Probably also thank Scorpus for running the Thursday night preview cast, and the other people that have popped in and out during the season. We had Hank, we had Big Fella, we had Mr. Mystery Guest. Who else did we have in there?
Danos.
Corey Wade.
Danos. Where the hell is Danos, for God's sake? Danos, if
And
you're
American
listening,
Craig.
mate. Sorry?
And American Craig.
Yeah, and I was going to mention a special thank you to American Crow, who bobbed in once or twice from Cleveland. So everyone that volunteered and put their hands up to come in and have a chat with us, at as Pete said, most appreciated, and the numbers that we've got this year in terms of people listening and participating on a weekly basis is just. I think it's just blown us all away, so we really appreciate that, and hopefully we can step it up and be nice and fresh next year for 2017, Pete.
Yeah, hopefully, and also just on that too, thanking everybody that's contributed and had stopped by and had a look at ProSfanCentral.com, which we started up towards the end of this year as well. Once again, as with the Crowcast, we were just astonished at the numbers that we're drifting through there for a read of the rubbish that we wrote down. So very, very happy, very happy with the support that we got there as well.
Yeah, well, from my point of view, it's been a pleasure to be on it. I enjoy my little boxing sparring with Phoenix every so often, and he's right about
The
one.
smackdowns from me.
Oh, Nicky, I've given up on you. I'll never convince you that I'm right, even when I am. But anyhow, look, I've loved being on the show. It's been good. I always enjoy a bit of fun, and I think the show's been fun to do. And I look forward to coming back again next year.
It's a great excuse for me to leave training early on a Tuesday, so I really enjoyed that.
All right. Well,
it has been a lot of fun.
Now that we've had a little love in, we'll wrap up there. Thanks once again, everybody, for listening. We've really appreciated your support, and as Phoenix said, we'll be back in 2017 with the Crowcast once again.
Good night,
Merry
everyone.
Christmas, guys. Be safe.
See ya.